What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We're out here in the garage today working on the Mark V Jetta. Today I've got some new ball joints going on the front end, so we're going to get those swapped out, just freshening up the suspension. I did recently do the whole lower control arms with new polyurethane bushings, so if you haven't seen that video, go ahead and watch that one. But we're getting the front suspension all kind of freshened up, so stick around. I'm going to show you the process of getting the old ball joint out and putting the new one in. Hey guys, got a new merch store available with some hats, shirts, and other accessories, so if you want to pick up some cool swag and support the channel, go ahead and click that link in the description below. Alright, here's the ball joints going in. These are from Amain. They are an OEM replacement, so we're going to get those thrown in. It does come with some hardware. Nuts here. It does come with the axle bolt, is not included. It is going to make your life a lot easier and kind of necessary to pull the axle when you're doing this. So you're definitely going to want to get a replacement axle bolt. Those are one-time use. So when you pull the old one out, you don't want to reuse it. So definitely make sure to get a new axle bolt for them. I will leave links to all this stuff down in the description so you can check it out there. Again, this is on a Mark V Jetta, so this is a 2010. So if you're working on something a little different, just make sure you get the right part number for what you need. First thing you're going to want to do is, before you get the vehicle up on jack stands, you're going to want to loosen the axle bolt. So depending on your wheel, go ahead and pop your center cap out, and then you can get your wrench on there and loosen it by about a 90-degree turn. That'll allow you, when you get the vehicle up on jack stands, the bolt will already be broken loose, and then you can get it all the way out. With the car safely up on jack stands, you broke this one loose with the wheel on the ground. It's still going to be pretty tight getting it off. So you're going to want to get your breaker bar back out. If you stick a screwdriver down in the slot of the disc here, that'll actually prevent it from spinning. Or if you have someone else with you, they can just sit in the driver's seat and put their foot on the brake. That'll keep the assembly from spinning on you while you loosen this up. Alright, there it is. Thought taking it out was fun. Just wait till you have to go back in and torque it down when you're putting everything back together. Well, alright, we got the axle bolt out. Now we're ready to start working on that ball joint. First step is to get the 3 bolts on the bottom side here on the lower control arm that hold the ball joint to the lower control arm. You want to take those bolts off. Those are a 16 millimeter. So go ahead and get those off. Then you can swing the lower control arm down away from the ball joint, and we can get that drive axle out of the hub as far as we can to give us access to the top bolt to get the ball joint off. So those 3 bolts there, now those are recommended to be replaced. They are a one-time use, so the new ball joint should come with new hardware, so you should have replacements of those. Like I said, you can just swing the lower control arm down, and then we can try to get this axle as far away from the hub, if not all the way out. There we go. Alright, so that's the bolt there on the top side. It's an 18 mil bolt. And about a T30, depending on what ball joint you have in there. If you go to an aftermarket one, like the one I'm putting in from Amain, actually uses a 5 mil Allen. About a T30, might be a T40, depending on your vehicle. But I'm going to try to get that off with just an impact. We're replacing the ball joint, so if I do spin the ball joint and break it even worse, it's already got a broken rubber boot on it. So it doesn't really matter if I break it. I'm going to try to just spin it off with an impact without holding that bolt still, but otherwise you'll have to hold that bolt still and get an 18 mil on there and spin it while you keep the bolt still to get that nut off. That impact did the trick. Odds are that ball joint's going to be pretty seized in there, so it's probably not going to spin the bolt, but you can see I got the bolt most of the way off. We do want to leave it threaded on a little bit because we're going to get the ball joint separator on there and pop it loose. That way we can get the whole ball joint away from the vehicle. Alright, this is going to be your ball joint separator. As you can see here, you cradle the ball joint there, and then you get this on top of the bolt that's going through. And then as you apply pressure on this bolt here, it's going to slowly put pressure on the top there and rock it and pop it out. You can kind of see it there. Got it cradled over that ball joint. Now you want this pushed on as far as you can. Since it's just sitting there without me putting pressure on it, it's kind of rocked back a little bit. But I will put my impact on that bolt there while keeping forward pressure on that to keep it mostly over the bolt on the top part there. And that should pop it out and release it from the carrier. Boom! Now it's getting that bolt the rest of the way off the top. There's the old ball joint. Not all that damage was sitting on the vehicle. Some of that's just from popping it off, but this boot was completely cracked here. That's why we're replacing it. Well, with that old cracked bad ball joint out of the way, we got the new one here. Like I said, this is an OE replacement from Melee. I will leave description or a link to all these parts that I'm using down in the description below. This one does use the 5mm Allen to hold this bolt steady, and then the 18mm to tighten it down. The top one here does not have a torque spec. Just get it as tight as you can. The bottom ones here that go into the lower control arm, those get torqued to 44 foot-pounds, and this kit here does come with all new hardware. And when you're putting this in on the top bolt here, we're gonna do that one first. Make sure it's lined up as best you can with the lower control arm. You can probably swing the lower control arm up before you tighten it down, and then also make sure you're not twisting the boot or anything. If you twist the boot, that's going to damage it, and then you're going to have to replace it again, and we're just putting a new one on now, so we don't want to do it twice. So make sure you're not twisting the boot. That's why you hold it with the 5mm Allen. Make sure it's not, you know, twisting the whole ball joint while you're tightening down that bolt. And then make sure you got the bottom side lined up. Just make sure they're visually lined up, and then tighten down that bolt. You do want to make sure you get a fair enough amount of torque on there, because that is pulling it into the carrier, so it's kind of seating it while you're tightening it. So again, just make sure you're not twisting the boot or anything. Before you swing the lower control arm back up, you want to make sure your axle is back in the hub here, and if it's been in there for a while and it was a little hard to get out, you can put a little bit of anti-seize on the spline. That'll help with future maintenance, especially if you ever have to take it back out to do ball joints again. Say you're installing coilovers, or you know, you're replacing your wheel bearing here. All right, we got everything tightened up. There's the upper bolt there. Got that all tightened down, and then we've got these all torqued on the bottom side to 44 foot-pounds. After that, the last thing to do really is to get the new axle bolt in. These are one-time use, so make sure you have an axle bolt when you're doing this. These are stretch bolts, so once you pull them out, you don't want to use them. So the axle bolt we're using on this one is a non-ribbed version, so smooth mating surface here, mating against the bearing assembly here. So this is going to get torqued to that 148 foot-pounds plus an additional 180 degrees. First stage we're going to do with the vehicle up in the air. Second stage we'll do with it on the ground. That way we don't damage the wheel bearing. If you do it all on the ground, you're going to damage the wheel bearing, and we don't want to do that. Does anyone else notice that I get pretty long-winded when I'm talking about stuff like this? Do I talk too much, or do I talk not enough? Let me know down in the comments. First stage done. Did it with the torque wrench. Now we'll get the wheel on it, get it on the ground, and then we'll do that final 180-degree turn to really tighten it up. Car's back on the ground. Wheel lug bolts are all torqued up. Everything's good to go. I did put a little chalk on this side, opposite on the other side, because you're going to be going obviously clockwise to tighten that axle bolt. If you do have a pipe or something to put to give an extension on the handle on your breaker bar, go ahead and do that just to get as much leverage on it as you can, and then do your best to get as much of that 180-degree turn on it. 290s equal 180, right? Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Haha. All right, that's a wrap. We got those new ball joints in there. Everything went well. Make sure you go ahead and take it for a test drive. Make sure it's not driving weird, doing anything crazy, and then head to the alignment shop so they can at least put it on the rack and check the specs of the alignment. If they need to make any adjustments, they can go ahead and do it at that time. You were messing with the suspension, so always a good idea to have it checked out. That way you're not getting any abnormal tire wear or having it, you know, pulled one way or the other. But yeah, go ahead and click that like button. If you got any comments, leave them down below. Hit that subscribe button while you're down there, and as always, I will see you in the next one.